This is Steven Jackson with Imprintables Warehouse. I'm here today with Bob McCormick from KM Specialties, and we're going to go over some graphic tutorial stuff. He's got a couple of jobs here that we're going to show how to take a graphic from a Great Dane artwork collection that he's got, bring that file into Corel Photo Paint, and then take it from there into Corel Draw, and we're going to put some cut lines around it, talk about bleeds and contours and stuff like that. So let's go through the process. First, in Photo Paint, we're going to open up that file that he's got. It's a nice eagle design that he's picked out. And I hit the F4 key because the F4 zooms out so you can see everything on the screen. It makes it easier for me to work with so that I can see everything that I've got with the design. We've got the full artwork right here. You notice the darker color in the background. That darker color is a mask layer that they've put into there. If I look over here at my artwork and I click on that in my Objects Property Docker, it selects just the artwork. In fact, there's a little spot right here that's outside that, and we can erase that later on once we bring this into Corel Draw. Sometimes importing a Photoshop document directly into Corel Draw, it'll not come through correctly, so a smoother, more efficient way to do it is to bring it into Corel Photo Paint and then copy that result, that clipping mask that they've already got in here, and bring that into Corel Draw. So we've got it all selected here. I'm going to go to Edit, and I'm going to copy it, and then I'll go over to Corel Draw, have our open document here, and I can go Edit and Paste, and it'll drop that artwork in there for me. Sometimes these actions take a minute or two because it's computing a whole bunch of stuff and it's trying to figure everything out. We just got to let the computer wait on that and let it do its business. If you're having a computer that's very bogged down by that, take a look at your RAM, your memory, and the processor speed to see if there's ways you can speed it up. Now I can hit the F4 key again and fill in my entire screen with this, and I see that this beautiful eagle graphic there with the American flag draped over it, very nice to work with. But if I go to wireframe, I can see that this isn't a vector object, it's a raster object, a bitmap, and I need to put a cut line around this. So to make a cut line around this, I can use a couple tricks in Corel Draw. I could draw it myself, use the Bezier tool, this one right over in here. I use the Bezier tool a lot. You've seen me probably in other graphics where I'm doing a fat head or something like that, and I'll draw around it and smooth stuff out, but that's going to take a while with this one. There's a lot of spots on there. It's a pretty involved graphic. What we're going to do instead on this is I will copy the photograph that's right here, so Control C, or I could have gone to Edit and Copy. I'll make another page and paste that object, Control V, or Edit and Paste, directly onto that second page. So I've got two pages. As you can see me click in between them down here, and both of them have the same exact graphic. On the second page with this graphic, I'm going to trace that bitmap. I'll use Corel's auto trace feature so that it'll give me a basic vector design in there, and I can choose and manipulate it to get it a little bit closer or further away from where I'm at. So I'll do trace bitmap. I could do quick trace, or on this one I'm going to choose outline trace and tell it it's a high quality image. It asks me to reduce the bitmap because it's a very large size, which we'll let it do. It brings it in here. There's several different modes that you can use in Power Trace. Right now it's in wireframe overlay. I can drop it down to do a before and after or a large preview. I personally like the wireframe overlay because I can see where the lines go. And you can see it's computing down here. It's going to take it a little bit. I got a fairly fast computer, but it's still trying to calculate everything in there to get the best results for me. Once it's come up with a finished product here, I can use the trace controls on detail, smoothness, and corner smoothness here to manipulate what the end result is going to be. It's almost done, so hopefully we'll get some good results from just the generic settings it comes with there. And it should pop any second here. You see all the objects it created here. There's a ton of them in this graphic, but it's a high detailed graphic. There's a lot in there. I can tell it to remove the background. I can specify the color or work with it, but it already removed the background that I wanted, the area around there inside of here. I can tell it to delete the original image, which I want to do in this instance because I don't need that original image in there anymore when I'm done. Remember, this was layer 2 or page 2 in Corel Draw, not layer 2, so the original graphic is still on page 1, and that's where we want it. Looks pretty good to me. We can work with the results on this. I'll hit OK. And what ends up coming into page 2 here, you'll see the graphic should have gone away. There it goes. And I've got a whole bunch of vector objects here. Now I can see at the bottom it's a group of 1,324 objects. We could have done a little more dummied down trace. We could work with the settings on that and get less. The reason sometimes I want to go less on there for objects is the next step that I'm going to do to create that outline around it, it's going to be calculating a whole lot more if it's got more objects in there. But we'll see how this one does for us. First I'm going to go to View and Enhanced so I can see the trace that it did, and that's actually fairly sharp. It's not a bad looking graphic, but as we zoom in you can see it's 100% vector, and it's not as smooth as when I switch to page 1. Page 1 has that very nice artistic quality. This is the bitmap. But if I zoom in real close on it, I can see how pixelated it's getting around his eye, and I go to page 2, there's no pixelation because they're vector objects. We're not going to use this vector object as our final output though. So what I want to do right now, it's a whole bunch of objects that are grouped together. When I left clicked on it, you don't see our weld and trim functions come up, so that tells me right away it's a group. And also right down here on the bottom it tells me group of 1,324 objects. I'm going to right click on this and ungroup, or I could use the shortcut key, Control U. A lot of those who've seen my videos, you know I talk over and over, learn the shortcut keys, they make your life faster. And look at all those dots and curves appear. Now I have 1,324 objects selected. It's not a group, and my weld and trim functions have shown up at the top here. This allows me to do different functions with it, but the one I'm looking for right now, because the final output that we're looking for this, is to be able to create a contour line or a boundary around the entire object. Well, the one that I use for that is down at the end here. It creates a boundary that surrounds the selected object. We'll click on that, and this is going to take it a little bit. It may even come up and tell us it's not responding because it's calculating where that line will go around everything on this group of objects to create a container to hold them in. So hopefully it won't take too long. We got it right there. I can move this to the side and you can see the line that it created there. Not too bad. So we'll move it and drop it, and I'm going to hit Control Z to put it back where it was. I want to take this line now and bring it to page 1. So I'll hit Control C or copy, go to page 1 where I've got my original graphic there, and Control V. My last step, because I want this to be a cut line, is to right click on my cut contour color and my color palettes. And if we zoom in on this, we can see that cut line is going right around the outside of it. I could go in and adjust the nodes and make it a little bit more exact and dead on with it, or we could contour this in. I can see, looks like there's a little bit off there in a distance, but it's not too bad. Let's use our contour tool to bring this line in a little bit, and that way we're also creating a bleed. So if our cut line's off a little bit, it's not going to be seen by the end person who gets the garment. They're not going to see a white line on the edge. We've got our line there. I'll go over to the contour tool, grab the contour tool, and now I get a whole bunch of options of, am I bringing it to the inside or the outside, towards the center. I'm going to go to the inside because I have a different color all the way around the edge on this graphic. You can see here it's red, there it's white, up here it's blue. So I'm going to go in just a little bit so that I can make sure that I'm making that bleed to the inside. So we'll zoom in on a portion so I can see what's going on. I'll hit the inside contour, and you see it's made a line that's slightly inside of the entire graphic. Now I've got a bleed zone that goes all the way around. It may be a bit extreme, the 0.05, so let's drop it down a little bit and get it right about maybe 0.02. Looks like it's cutting in just enough that I'm not going to get any issues all the way around. A contour is a property of the original object, so it's not its own object that I can modify. I can modify it to what color I want, if it's got any fill or anything like that, but other than that, it's still connected to the first line there. So to break that apart, I'm going to go to Arrange and break contour group apart, or again shortcut keys, don't forget folks, Control K. So I can just click on that one, and now they're two separate objects. I'll go back over to my pick tool, and if I zoom in on this guy here, I can see I'm selecting the outer one. I've got 100% cut contour hairline right there. If I drag it away, that was my original one. I don't need that anymore. I'll get rid of it. I'll take this inner one right here, and I'll right click on my cut contour line, and now I've got a beautiful cut contour line that goes just slightly inside the graphic all the way around. Got a couple more areas. We got the inside right here, the inside right here, and this little area down here. If we didn't want those to be white, we would need to address that also. We want to make sure that that cuts in just like everything else. So we'll go back to page 2 where we have that vector graphic. And I'm going to use a slightly different tool. I'll zoom in on one of these areas to see both of the two inside areas right there. And I'm going to use what's called the Smart Fill tool right over here. This Smart Fill tool allows me to click inside of an area and it will go to the edge of the boundaries of it where there's a vector object or some container. If we look at this in wireframe, you can see that it's open right there, but there's all these different objects around it that will make an outer edge for a container. So we'll go back to our regular, and by the way, I'm using shortcut keys to toggle in between wireframe and enhanced. You can also do it up here, but you see I've assigned some shortcut keys because it makes my life a lot faster and easier. What I'm going to use for my selection with the Smart Fill tool right over here is no fill. I want to specify an outline. You can do hairline. I usually do it a little thicker than a hairline so I can see it. And I've picked that cut contour color right there. I can drop that down, use my eyedrop picker and pick that cut contour color, and I've got it right there. When I click inside, you'll watch very quickly it's created a line that's gone around the inside of it. We'll zoom in on that and you can see my cut contour line that's right there.
That's beauty.
Makes life easy. I've got this area over here. I'll hit that one. And this area down in here. Now I'm not going to worry about up in there. I just want this little bit right here, so I'll hit that. So we've got our 3 spots right there. And now what I'm going to do is go back to my pick tool. I'll select the first one. Holding down the shift key, I select the next one and this one. So I've got all 3. There's 3 different objects. You can see them there. I'll hit Control Z to put them back. And I'm going to combine them into one. Use the Combine tool right here. So combine them into one. And then I'm going to copy them. Control C. Bring them back to the first page. Control V and drop them in. And we can see there's our line. But this one we need to contour out a little bit. Because this one we're going to be going out into the graphic. So again, I'll do my contour tool. I'll choose it to the outside this time, and you'll see there's my cut line going into the graphic where I want it, so I've got a little bit of bleed zone. Don't forget what's our shortcut key. I'm going to zoom in so we can see all this right here, and then select my items. Again, I've still got those selected. I'll use Control K to break them apart, so now they're different objects. And when I zoom in and grab this one here that I don't want, I can hit delete, and it was all connected together, so you can see it's gone from all of them. This one down here, I can't see it right now. It's a little bit further down on the whole graphic. If I pull it aside, oh, it looks like I missed some of it. So let's go back and see what we lost. I selected, it didn't contour in all of them. There's our mistake. So even I make mistakes, folks. You can see this one up here, it did the double contour in, that's fine. And this one over here did the contour in. But on our bottom one, for some reason, I don't see, you hit the zoom key, I don't see the section that contoured outside like we wanted it to. So let's take that one again and we'll hit the contour and we'll go to the outside and see if it creates it. I don't think it is. See, it's got a little loop right here, so something's not right with this object. So let's address that differently. We're going to Control Z, get rid of that, and we're just deleting the inside one, and we've got our outside one here and here. We're happy with that, with the results there, but I've got the spot down here that didn't quite work right. I've got a little bit right there that for some reason it went around, and I can see that's a curve. It's connected to those two, so I've got to, let me show you that. See that when I select that, it's connected to these two, and that's not what we want. So we'll break that curve apart. I'll right click on it, break curve apart, and now they're separate objects. Now I can zoom in on this guy and just take this one right here and delete it. So something wasn't right on that. Let's go back to page 2 and take a look at our graphic here. I don't think we're going to break this curve apart. I don't think that this one is completely finished. There's something going on right here, and that's why I did that circle around it. So let's go to our node, and you can see it's got a little loop-de-loop right there, so something's not right. Let's delete those two. And actually put it back to where it is. And we'll delete this loop-de-loop because something wasn't working right with that. I'll take a look up here. I can select all nodes. It shows it as a closed object. And I can see that by right-clicking on it. And I could break it apart on the object, but it's a closed object. So there's nothing wrong there. So let's even try this. With it still on this layer here, I don't like those little nodes going the way they are there. So we'll select these two and delete them. And maybe shape this up just a little bit. so that it's kind of going into the graphic. That's a little bit better. Smooth this one out. And now we're going to do the contour tool here and make sure it works right. We'll grab just this guy, and on contour we'll go to the outside, and there's our line. It worked this time. So there was something in that graphic that just didn't want to play right. That's okay, it happens sometimes. You just have to make sure that your results are correct, verify it, and then if something's not right, go back and find out where the issue is. Again, I'll use Control K to break it apart. I've got two different objects there. I don't need this inner one right here, but I need that outer one. And we're on the second page, so I can just copy that one, go to our first page, and paste it, and there's our cut line bleeding into the whole object. I don't like this right over here. See how there's too many spots for it to zip around on? So what I can do is put an anchor node right there by double-clicking on the line while I'm in the shape tool right here. I'll double-click on the line right here, and then I'll delete all these nodes in between there, and it smooths it right out for me. Makes it a lot nicer. If I didn't put those anchor lines right there, let's delete those two, and I just delete these guys here, it might work, but see how it carried it all the way up the side there and changed that whole item there? It's not quite what we want to do. So we want to make sure, a lot of times it's easier to put a couple anchor nodes and then delete what's in between them, and those anchor nodes keeps the rest of the line where it's supposed to be and makes things a lot smoother. Down here I can see another issue if I'm going to be cutting that, so I'll put an anchor node here, an anchor node there, delete all of this, and it smoothed it right out nice and easy for us. Okay, so I've got that item right there, I've got this one and this one, so I'll hold down the shift and select all those. Do I have all three that I want? Yes, I do. I'll put those three back. I'm going to change the color to cut contour, and then I'm going to select that and the outer line there. I'll make sure that I've got everything. Those are all my cut lines and everything I wanted. Put them back, and I'll use the combine tool up here, so now they're one object. If I select on it, it's one single object. I have a cut line exactly where I want it to be. It's inside of the color. I've got a nice bleed line, so I could send this graphic, export it out as an EPS file and send it over to VersaWorks and print and cut it, and it'll go right where we want it to. That's an overview with a bitmap graphic, a Photoshop document. We brought it into Corel Photo Paint. Showed you how to bring that file into Corel Draw, and then use a couple different tools in there to set up our cut line and bleed areas. Thanks for watching.